Welcome back to another episode of Local Search Tuesdays. This week, I've got another awesome presentation to share with you. Yeah, I know, we've had a lot of slide episodes lately, but it's been the busy spring conference season, so a few weeks ago, I shared the slides from my keynote at SMX Munich, one of the biggest digital marketing conferences in Europe. I also presented a regular session, and this one was all about Google Business Profile Optimization. It's about a half hour long, but it's packed with awesome tips, so check it out. Well, this is how to make your Google Business Profile scream. Hey, I'm Greg, but you know that because you're watching this on my weekly video. But for those of you that haven't seen any of my videos before, I do have a weekly video series called Local Search Tuesdays. It's what you're watching right now. But I also get to speak at a lot of conferences all over the world. I'm lucky enough to be a popular presenter, so I get to see a lot of other presenters present. And sometimes they're not the greatest at presenting. Typically, they're going to stand right behind the podium, just locked in, and they have their back to the crowd because they're just reading their own slides. And even worse, the background of every slide is plain white, and they use black Arial font and tons of bullet points. And because of that, I firmly believe that bullet points kill kittens. So today's presentation will be entirely kitten safe. And you noticed the scream reference there at the beginning. I was a film major in college, and I love to share my love of movies with my love of talking about digital marketing. So today's theme is horror movies, and we've got 99 references to horror movies with at least one horror movie for every year in the last 50 years. Now, I know there will be some obscure stuff that some of you, or in fact, most of you may not have seen. So there is attribution to the side. So not only will you learn some awesome stuff about your Google Business Profile and how to optimize it, but you'll have a great list of movies to watch later. And I know it's horror movies. You might be a little freaked out, but I promise you the scariest thing that you're going to see in here today is all of the 80s fashion. So let's kick this off. Why the long face? Do you need a hand with your Google Business Profile? Luckily, I've got a few to spare. Now, I know a lot of times local SEO can be pretty confusing, and with all of the changes that have been rolled out with the rebrand from Google My Business to Google Business Profile, and now you can edit in the search experience, and there's just so much going on, you might feel like you're going to lose your head, but I'm here today to help you. You don't actually have to bend over backwards to know what to do to optimize your sites. I'm going to share a lot of awesome tips today that are going to rock your faces off. And if you follow these tips, your profiles will be so awesome, it's going to turn all of your customers' heads. So I'm here today to talk about Google Business Profiles, which used to be Google My Business, Google Places, and Google Plus Places for Business, and all of the crazy names. But the new name, Google Business Profiles. If you're doing local SEO, then your Google Business Profile is literally the key to success because it's your new homepage. It's the thing that people see when they look for you by name. In fact, it is the first impression that you're going to make with potential customers. It's not your website anymore. It's your Google Business Profile. They don't have to go to your website to get your address or to get your phone number or to see pictures or read reviews or even see common questions. And your Google Business Profile is incredibly important because your profile is what allows you to show up in the map pack or in searches in Google Maps. It's really important to pay attention to the study that happens every year that's run by Darren Shaw over at Whitespark. Used to be run by David Mim back in the day for those of you that have been in the game for a bit longer. It's called the Local Search Ranking Factors Study. They take the top 40-ish people worldwide that are experts in local search, that do these things day in and day out, that really know if you tweak a signal here, it results in increased visibility or decreased visibility. And it's a big, long survey about positive factors, negative factors, foundational factors, competitive factors, and they aggregate all of the answers. And you get a really solid idea of what's going into Google's algorithm and what it's looking at, and what's going to help with your website if you want to show up better in searches. And you get two pie charts. Now, the local search ranking factors for 2021 were just released at the very end of last year. So this is the guide for 2022 of what you need to do to get more visibility. And we get two pie charts. The first pie chart shows you the factors that matter for showing up in the organic listings. And notice the two biggest sections are on-page signals and inbound links. But you get another pie chart that shows you the signals that matter for showing up in the map pack or in searches on Google Maps. And notice by far, the biggest piece of the pie is Google My Business or your Google Business Profile. So one of the most important things you can do, and I know this is going to sound boneheaded because of course you'd have it claimed, but you'd be surprised how many businesses haven't claimed and verified their profile. So that's a huge signal. You want to make sure you've done that. Now, if you are having problems with verification or even suspension, support for Google Business Profiles is lacking at best. Honestly, it pretty much sucks. So what you want to do is go to the Google Business Profile Community Forum. Now, this isn't staffed by Google employees. It's staffed by volunteers, but these volunteers know the right things to do to help. And in fact, if there is a bug and it's something that is broken, they have the higher level experts have the ability to escalate forum threads, skip support completely, and go directly to the Google Business Profile internal team. So you can go create a forum post there and get help if you're having problems getting verified. But when you do go create a post on the forum, you want to make sure you include as much detail as possible about your issue, including any support case numbers if you have talked to support, because otherwise they're going to come back and ask you for more details to be able to help before they're able to escalate or before they're just able to help you with your situation. And the forum isn't just for verification issues, any problems that you have with GBP, suspensions, reviews, Google posts, anything like that related to your Google business profile. The forum is an excellent resource to get you help. And Google has gotten a lot more aggressive lately with suspensions on Google business profiles, address changes. There's a lot of people out there just trying to be dirty cheaters and spam the system. So suspensions have been a lot more aggressive lately. So if you do get suspended, definitely go to the forum for help. And the forum can also help with review problems. Like I mentioned a second ago, the review filter is very aggressive lately. So a lot of positive reviews are getting incorrectly tagged as spam reviews, so they're not showing up. So I actually did a video in my weekly series there that explains the issues going on with those missing reviews and what you could do about those reviews. But when you're looking at your business's info, make sure you fill out all of the available fields. You want to make sure you don't add additional keywords to your business name. You're not allowed to add descriptors or extra keywords. It needs to be the actual name of your business. If you're adding extra keywords, you can cause your listing to get suspended. You want to make sure you've got a local area code phone number listed. That is a hugely important signal to Google's local algorithm. But that doesn't mean you can't do call tracking. Google updated the rules a few years ago, so it's actually okay. And in fact, probably it's best practice to use a tracking number on your Google business profile. So when you get enhanced visibility from all the things that you've done, you can assess the effect on your phone calls by seeing those increased calls if you've got that call tracking number. So basically, watch the video, but at a high level, you want to put the tracking number as the primary number and your actual local number as one of your two alternate phone numbers. Now, keep in mind, just because I said it's okay to use a tracking number still doesn't mean it's okay to use a 1-800 number. Nobody needs toll-free numbers anymore. Make sure that tracking number is a local area code phone number. And the categories that you select have a humongous influence on the searches that you're going to show up for. So make sure you're choosing all of the appropriate categories that match what you do, and be very strategic with what you choose as your first category. That primary category is more weighted in the algorithm, and you're more likely to show up for searches for anything related to that category. So be very strategic. Watch this video. It walks you through various scenarios of possible reasons you may not want to put what you think that you would want to put as your primary category, because you need to be more strategic based on what you're facing with local competition. If you want to check what your competitors have chosen for their categories, it's actually pretty easy. There is a plugin for Chrome called GMB Spy, actually created by a friend of mine, George Nenny, but it is an awesome plugin. Definitely check that out. It lets you see every category that your competitors have chosen, which will help you in turn choose the right categories for your own business. You want to make sure you're including UTM tracking on your website link, because Google Analytics attribution is broken. A lot of the clicks that come to your Google business profile and click through to your website on mobile devices, that mobile device doesn't pass referral information to Google Analytics, which then results in that traffic getting classified as direct traffic in Google Analytics, even though it was organic traffic. So you want to make sure you include UTM tracking like this, that will then force that traffic to be correctly attributed when you go into Google Analytics. You want to make sure you're uploading a lot of photos and that you change your photos out often. It's okay to change your photos. If you have a business and it's somewhere up north and there's a lot of seasonality there, don't show summer pictures when there's snow on the ground. Don't show pictures with snow on the ground in the summer. Switch those out. Show people what they can expect to see when they come to do business with you. Keep in mind, though, you're not doing this because changing photos is going to help you rank better. You're uploading photos because those are a conversion factor. It's important to upload professional photos from a professional camera, not iPhone shots. Google will show a slight preference to well-composed, high-resolution photos shot with an actual DSLR camera. And if you're curious what you should upload, I'm going to share some ideas with you. First of all, show your identity and your personality. Remember, people are shopping around and trying to figure out where they want to do business. So show a lot of photos that show why you're awesome and why you're a great place to do business, and differentiate yourself from your competition. Make sure you upload photos that show the inside of your establishment, as well as photos that show the exterior. And then make sure that you've got some employees in your photos. Far too often, businesses are going to upload photos of their establishment completely empty. So show people inside doing business. It's nothing worse than seeing a restaurant or a bar and on their Google business profile, it's just an empty shot of the interior, because it never looks that way if you're coming to actually eat or drink at that establishment. So show your employees. You don't have to show every employee because then you're worried about switching the photos out, but show what it looks like inside. And you can actually upload videos as well. It doesn't have to just be photos. So upload any videos that you've created or create videos specifically to show on your Google business profile. The size limit for those videos is 75 megabytes in size or 30 seconds in length. So make sure you're paying attention to that as you're uploading your videos. And another boneheaded bit of advice that you'd be surprised how many people don't have correct is make sure you're uploading the correct business hours so that people know when you are actually open for business. If you want to show additional service options for things like delivery times or curbside pickup times or senior only hours or brunch hours, if you're a restaurant, they have an additional hours feature. You can watch this video. It outlines how to use this feature and what to choose. But basically, these are the options that you can choose to show when you have additional hours for a different level of service from your standard operating hours. And if you have hours that change on a temporary basis, maybe it's Christmas or Christmas Eve or 4th of July or some holiday like that, and you're going to be closed, or maybe you need to close early one afternoon for some reason, don't change your standard hours. Use the holiday hours feature where it will temporarily overwrite your hours of operation just for the days that you've selected. You should also be using Google Posts on a regular basis. Now, I tried to squeeze as much information as I could into a short presentation, so I'm not going to dig too much into Posts because I did a Whiteboard Friday video for Moz last year, and it's 15 minutes of densely packed information on Posts. So if you want to learn more about Posts, please go watch this video. It will definitely be helpful. But at a high level, you want to use them because they're basically free ads that show in search results. And here's where most people screw up because they treat them like social media, and they are not social media. Treat them like ads and you will be much more successful with your posts. And posts can actually get people to convert without ever going to your site, or get them to convert before they've been to your site. And in the past, posts were live for 7 days and then disappeared. Now posts are live for 6 months before they go away, unless you're using one of the templates that includes a date range. And if you have more than one post live, they'll be displayed in a carousel where you can swipe through the carousel and it will show the 10 most recent posts that are still live. Most people only concentrate on the full image and the full content of the post and then wonder why those posts aren't successful. But remember, it's like an ad. And if that thumbnail, which is the cropped in image and the few lines of text, if that thumbnail is not compelling, nobody's going to click on the thumbnail to see the full post. So you want to optimize that post thumbnail if you want to be successful. And remember, treat it like an ad. It's got to be compelling enough in the thumbnail for someone to click and see the full post, or it doesn't matter how amazing your post is because no one will see it. The what's new post is typically the one you're going to want to use. Now, we're always going to want to include a call to action button, which shows up as a link in the thumbnail view and removes one of the potentially 4 lines of text. So the what's new post will give you 3 lines of text to write something compelling along with that thumbnail image. If you use the event post type, the event post type has a separate title line and a separate date range, and the post will only be visible during those dates. But once you include that call to action text link, that leaves you a single line, which is only going to give you a handful of words to write something compelling, and it's a lot more difficult to do so. You could also do an offer post, which a lot of people like because of the little price tag emoji, but honestly, who cares? The offer title is one line. The date range of the offer is another line. Once you have that call to action link, all you have left is a single line. So again, it's difficult to write something that is compelling. There is also a COVID update post, but it's text only and does not include a photo. And you actually don't want to use the COVID update post because it hides all other active posts. Remember, I said you can have multiple posts live. They'll show up in a carousel. If you're using the COVID update post, none of those posts will appear and only your COVID update post shows. So you really don't want to use it. If you want to share any sort of COVID related information, if there's maybe a resurgence and lockdowns come back or masks come back, use the what's new post type instead, because it stays up for 6 months and it's much more visible and it's easier to write something compelling, and it doesn't hide any other offers or events or posts that you might have live. And your image choice in the post is really, really important because, like I said, if it's not compelling, nobody's going to click through. The ideal size for your image is 1200 pixels by 900 pixels. And you want to be careful not to crop out important elements. If it's an image, you don't want to crop out half of the important bit of the image, or if you've got text in the image, you don't want your text to be cropped out because, again, it won't be as compelling. But cropping is really wonky and inconsistent, so sometimes it's really difficult to make sure that the important elements of your image aren't cropped out. So we've created a Google Post image cropping guide. You can download the Photoshop document at that link right there. The Photoshop document is going to look like this. Anything within that white grid is safe and will not be cropped out. And then everything outside of the white grid will show up in the full image once they click to see the full post. You also want to be careful to avoid using words that have sexual connotation, because those will cause your post to get denied and it won't show up. This can get pretty difficult for certain verticals. For example, if you're doing weather stripping and you have a post that talks about how we can come do the weather stripping on your house, that post will get declined because of the word stripping. Or if you're a handyman or a hardware store, and you had a post about a tool special, that's going to get declined because of the word tool. Or if you're a plumber and you've got a post about fixing a toilet, that one's going to get declined because of the word toilet. So you got to be really careful when you're creating these posts. And if you have some that aren't showing up, think about the language that's in there and see if any of those could be misconstrued as having sexual connotation or toilet connotation. You want to make sure you're using the UTM tracking on your links in posts as well, so that you can differentiate between regular website clicks from your GBP and clicks that happen from any of your posts. And it's important to include that campaign variable in the UTM tracking so that you can differentiate between individual posts, so that when you have a post or two that are really successful, you'll be able to tell the difference and you'll be able to replicate that success in the future. You should also be paying attention to the questions and answers section, which allows any random person to ask your business a question, and any random person can answer that question for you. And that's actually the scariest thing in the presentation, because people are asking your business a question and anybody out there can answer the question for you. And customers think that it's a chat system. It's like instant messaging. There's somebody at your business waiting on the other end to answer any questions that come in. But what it really is a community discussion feature off of Google Maps that's just displayed in your Google Business Profile. And because of the fact that it's an element of Google Maps and not of Google Business Profiles, it doesn't show up in the GBP dashboard. So most businesses don't even know that it exists, which means they're not answering the questions that are coming in. It's just like social media. A conversation is happening about your business and you need to control that conversation. You only get notifications about Google Business Profiles if you use the Google Maps app and you're logged in. That's kind of a pain. So it's much easier to just monitor the Q&A section using a third-party app. Most of the reputation management applications out there also monitor that Q&A section. And it's really great for content research. A lot of people are just thinking about an FAQ type of situation, but think about the other side of it. If you look for the common questions that customers are asking you, that gives you a lot of great ideas for content that should be on your site, because they're asking those questions because the content's not there or because the content's not easy to find. So it can really inform your direction with the content that you should be putting on your website. And then you can go more advanced level and look at the common questions that potential customers are asking your competitors, because we know they're shopping around. And if they're asking your competitors, they probably have the same questions for you. Questions can get upvotes, thumbs up, just like the answers can. And if a question gets 3 or more upvotes, it will appear in your Google Business Profile panel instead of the standard questions and answers link. If you have more than one question with 3 upvotes, it's whichever question has the most upvotes. But answers, you can have multiple answers to questions as well. And the answer that has the most thumbs up or the most upvotes is the answer that's displayed as the primary answer to the question. And then the potential customer can click the link to see all of the other answers to the questions if they so choose. Now, currently there is a bug that mislabels the answers that come from the business. All of the answers that come from the business should list the name of the business and then say owner in parentheses. There's a bug that's been out there for about a year at this point that hasn't been fixed yet. That means only the owner account can answer as the business owner. If you answer with a manager account, it is labeled as that account's name, not the business. So it's a pretty big bug, especially for agencies or businesses that have teams internally that manage multiple Google Business Profiles. So basically what this video is going to tell you to do is to use a third-party tool to answer questions, because if those third-party tools that allow you to answer the questions use the GBP API. And if the API is used, those answers will always be labeled as coming from the business. So that's kind of the way to get around that current bug that causes some problems. Also, be sure not to include a phone number or a URL to your website in your answer, because that will get filtered out. You're not supposed to use URLs or links or phone numbers in answers to questions in the Q&A section. You won't always notice that your answers don't show up though. You don't get a message, and to you, it will appear that they're showing. So you want to go in and check in incognito mode, not signed in, so that you can see what the public actually sees when they see your profile. It is okay and actually encouraged by Google to upload your own questions. Ask your business your own questions and then answer those questions and keep your answers upvoted and set up what we like to call a pre-site FAQ experience. And make sure you're uploading common questions about COVID and COVID protocols if that's still an issue with potential customers in your particular area. And also, again, go advanced level and check out questions that people are asking to your competitors, and then upload those same questions and then answer those same questions on your profile. The reason that's important, as someone goes in to click the Ask a Question button and they start to type a new question in, if a similar question has been asked and answered in the past, Google will automatically pop up and display an answer to the question as that potential customer types that question in, which gives them a much better first impression of your business and makes it much more likely that they're going to call you. Also, you need to pay attention to Q&A, because a lot of times people will leave a review in the Q&A section instead of the actual reviews section. And sometimes they'll ask you questions instead of submitting a chat or a lead or calling you. So you're missing out leads because you're only watching the lead forms and the chat forms and paying attention to the phones, and you're missing the leads that come in through the Q&A section. In fact, several years ago, I did a little research project, looked at over 600 car dealerships across the United States and classified all of the questions that came in and kind of bucketed them. And here's the breakdown. 1% were just general contact. 3% were people that wanted to buy parts. 15% were people that wanted to buy a car. 16% were reviews that were in the wrong spot. 22% were people that needed service on their car. And then 35% were just the general questions. If we add those 3 blue ones up, that's 40% of the questions asked across over 600 dealerships were actual leads where the dealership could have sold something, and only 2 of those were even answered. You can actually remove questions if they're not a question, or if it breaks any of Google's content policies and the terms of service. So all you have to do is click the three dots to the right of the question and select report. And there's going to be multiple options. Realistically, you just choose anything other than no longer applies, and it's typically going to be removed within 24 hours. So at the end, I'd like to share some fun examples of Q&As out in the wild. We see this all the time, where even though the phone number is literally maybe an inch to an inch and a half away on the screen, people will click ask a question and then, hey, what's your phone number? I've got a Chevy Impala and it's overheating and I need help. Okay, there's service work, and notice nobody answered that question. Or we see ones like this, hey, your website sucks, and somebody even answered it and said, yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. So clearly that shows you've got a problem with your website, but this is a great example of a question you could get removed, because your website sucks is not a question, it's a statement. So you could easily get this question removed. I was doing an event at Google headquarters in Austin for a bunch of car dealers in the area, and I pulled up this example. I like to pull local examples because it makes it more fun. And it turned out this guy was actually in the room, but the question was, does this dealership have a body shop? And the answer was, don't go here, look at the reviews. I had a horrible experience. They lie to you and everyone else. But the dealership answer, noticed, is labeled as the dealership name and the owner, and it's a much better answer. But if you notice, the answer that showed as the primary answer had 1 thumbs up, and the other 5 questions didn't have a thumbs up. So the guy came up to me afterwards and said, hey, I work there. And I said, oh, I wasn't trying to embarrass you. And he said, no, really, it's fine. What do we do to fix it? And we just grabbed 3 people that were sitting in the front row and had them all get on their phones, log into Google, go to this dealership and click thumbs up on the dealership's answer. And immediately the dealership's answer became the primary displayed answer to the question. This one was for a hotel in Boston that I did a conference at several years back. And it was an older building up in the Northeast, if you've ever seen those, where the hallways are kind of confusing and the room numbers aren't consistently numbered. So someone asked, how are the room numbers ordered? And this guy sarcastically says alphabetically, which we all kind of laugh at, but it was really confusing. And that was the only answer to the question. So it's not a great pre-site FAQ experience for customers of that hotel. And this is my all-time favorite. This one has since been changed by the guy that left the answer because he thinks he's a comedian. But this is for the London Eye, the big Ferris wheel on the Thames River in downtown London. And the question has been upvoted because it's funny, but it's not a great first impression. They should be paying attention, and that's the reason I show it. But the question is, do you have to wear a helmet? And the answer originally was, you don't have to, but you can if you wish. I believe Viking helmets are a popular choice. So what you need to do is load all of your own common questions and answer your questions and keep your answers upvoted so that it's an awesome pre-site FAQ experience just like this. Thanks so much for taking that crazy ride through Google Business Profiles with me today. I know a lot of times when you're thinking about your Google Business Profile, it makes you feel like a basket case, but hopefully the tips I shared with you today will open your eyes to the possibilities, because now you have the keys to success with your Google Business Profile. In fact, you've got the hook that's going to attract more local customers. So you'll be able to break out of your shell and do more awesome digital marketing, and everyone will end up happy. So thanks so much for paying attention today. That was how to make your Google Business Profile scream. There is my email address. I've got an open email policy. If you ever have any questions, just shoot me an email. I am happy to answer them. And if you'd like to get the slides, I'm happy to send you the slides as well. And at the end, as always, there is a list of all the movies by order of release date. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks so much for sticking around to watch the whole presentation. That's definitely all the time we've got left for this week's episode, so you know what that means. Put your hand on the screen right here. We totally just high-fived because you learned something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Local Search Tuesdays.